2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Just doing my thing.
Welcome to the Voice of C3 podcast about the Rapids for support fans by supporters and fans. Man, today was a busy day. We got some topics to talk about, starting with the CONCACAF Champions League draw.
Can I just start swearing already?
That would be really rough, but we know you got some thoughts, man, and I just really want to sit and let you boil. I want to see what happens. This could be interesting.
In fact, we should just mute him and talk about it for like 10 minutes and then let him off mute.
Oh, I know. That would be that might be a whole new side of Colin. There's definitely a lot of chatter around that draw. We'll get to that in a minute. We got some new blood in town, so we'll talk about that. Colin's got some stuff that he might want us to look at, think about moving forward with some of our strikers. And there was some breaking news on top of the CONCACAF draw. Assistant coach Steve Cooke is no longer an assistant coach. He's a head coach. And I'll just go ahead and break that right now. Not that it's really been broken, unless you're not on the Twitter sphere or a part of what we do around here. Steve Cooke landed a head coaching job at Oklahoma City. So congrats, Cookie. Awesome. I think that he has definitely deserved a shot. In a way, I'm sad to see him go, but in a way, I'm not sad. Or not sad, not surprised is what I meant to say. I said sad and surprised. Too many S's. I didn't do my tongue twister stuff before we started. I just was sipping, and I'll blame that. So, you know, we said it a handful of times. This guy definitely knows how to be a coach on the training field, and he's definitely an everyday coach. And he didn't have the best record, and he probably didn't have the best scenario. And coming in and doing what he had to do, I'm glad that Oklahoma City didn't hold that against him, and they're not willing, but they want to take a shot with this guy. And not only did they give him the head coaching position, they gave him the technical director position, which is also kind of, as we learned a little bit this week, talking to some scouts, the technical director is kind of the scout, the head scout. Teams that don't have scouts, the technical director is a scout.
Now, is that normal for maybe USL compared to like the MLS due to maybe a little bit less money and that kind of thing to have dual kind of title? You know?
I don't know. That was kind of one of those things that, remember Gary Smith, and part of the whole issue there was he wanted to kind of be that technical director issue and some teams want that, some teams don't. I think a coach wants to have his players, and a coach knows what types of players he wants. And sometimes if you don't have that connectivity between your technical director and your coach, it's going to show on the field. Pretty much. Yeah. I wasn't really going to kind of go there with names, but I mean, it happens with other teams and other places everywhere, but a local example would be. So I'm going to follow Cookie, and I would like to see how he does. So congrats, Steve. And yeah,
I think that hurts us actually. He's going to be a significant loss, I feel, in the transition for Hudson, because we had originally talked about it with him kind of being here, being the MLS mindset, maybe a little bit continuity with the team, and still having a coach on level. Now I know we still have probably a couple little assistant coaches, or maybe the keeper coach or whatever might still be around, but he was
Sharpie's still here.
That. So I'm interested to see how that transition goes with him not here anymore.
We'll still have Connor Casey next year, right?
Absolutely. So and every bit of the other part of the coaching staff is still here. Chris Sharpie's still here. Connor Casey's still here. And I think that maybe you kind of said the word transition, and it just totally rang a bunch of bells in my head, because at the press conference, that was really one of the one of the most said words was just getting this transition down. And I wonder if part of that transition might have been having conversations and chats with Cookie about these players and about personalities and tendencies and types and who they are. I really don't think that Cookie would leave without having a handful of conversations with Anthony Hudson about who he's got on his roster right now. I wouldn't worry too much about that part of it. It does suck that he's not going to be here to kind of help with the training bit of it. But you know, I think we all would take jobs in areas and places we would if we had the opportunity to move up.
Oh no, he definitely deserves it. It's like he definitely deserves a head coach role. He leaves a hole here.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, he leaves a hole for sure in a way, but we'll see like what kind of hole and who fills it and how.
Well, and I'm sure we're going to overcome it. It's just like
right. We've been told there's more coaches coming in as well as players, so it's kind of like I'm just sitting back and applauding Cookie at this point, and I figure we'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I just I think he would have made a smoother transition for us, but like it's in the end, it's still going to be Hudson with like you said, Connor Casey, and Porrick is really calling a lot of shots. Maybe not in coaching and on the field, but like he's there, so I think that's going to help all that. It's just I'll miss him. I think he definitely had an impact on this team over his tenure here, and a lot of impact on the players because he did a lot of one-on-one time with them. So that's something that I think we're going to miss.
Well, and his interaction with the fans and supporters too, because one of those things that he will tell any fan or supporter if he has a chance to talk to him, like, I'm not just a coach. I'm there too. I'm a fan. I'm a supporter. Like he remembers his team, and you can tell the passion in it. So he definitely has that connection between club and fan. So that part will be a bit missed too. But we're going to get to know a lot of whole new people in the future.
Agreed.
Oh, meanwhile, let's all say hi, everybody.
It's too late for that.
Yeah, it's too late for that. You just know we're here. Well met, everybody.
You got to get your well met out.
Got to get the well met in.
Yes.
Let's give him a last cheers off at least, right?
Yay! I will follow him. I will see what happens and root for OKC. I don't really have a USL team. Rochester can't get their shit together. So, anyway, moving on.
Colin's favorite piece, huh?
Yeah, no, we're not. We're skipping that because we're just going to go ahead and make. I'm kidding.
You could just see the vein popping in his head.
Should I just mute myself now and save me the trouble?
I paused for a second. Wow.
The draw. I didn't watch the draw. I watched bits and pieces and stuff. I don't have a problem with it to an extent. So just to put it out there, we drew Toronto, for those who didn't know. My issue here is that while this is a Champions League and we're not supposed to be placing with anyone in the same country in our first round, they mistakenly put us with someone in the same league. So it doesn't really...
It makes no sense.
It doesn't hold this
rule about
yeah,
that.
it doesn't have much of a value other than, oh, great, we get to play the Cup champs in our first freaking game of the year. I personally would love to see our club just stick it to MLS and Toronto and just beat the shit out of them. That's all I got to say, Colin. Do what you got to do.
I'm just disappointed that we're playing someone we've played before, really. Just, God, it would have been so interesting to face.
So much back.
I know, man.
I know.
Don't hold back.
Don't hold back.
I'm going to hold back
said it.
anyways.
Like,
Go
is it rigged or not?
Honestly, I don't think it's rigged, but it was such an awkward draw. It was so awkward. if you could see, and this is one of those things that's really good to have the camera right now, but people listening to this aren't going to get it. They just felt so robotic as they just kind of reached in, and you could see they were like looking off screen, like, is this the one? No, I'll pull my arm up a little bit. Oh, no, I'll put it back. I'll grab this one. All right, here we go. It just looked awkward, and I know it was because they were trying to show that there wasn't any cheating going on, but it still looked real awkward.
We've been every conspiracy fan out there has definitely had their thoughts about what has gone on with MLS and like even the Cup. Oh, okay. It's Seattle again. It's Toronto again. All right. I bet, the Don sat there and told Toronto, oops, well, that one ended at a PK. We'll get you back next year. You can have a rematch. Now they both each got their trophy. So we'll see what happens next year. But as far as the draw goes, it really does just kind of suck that we didn't get an actual out of league team. Yeah, we got an out-of-country team, but we didn't get an out-of-league team. And that's a bit bunk. But we're in the Champions League, and we still have a chance to do something in the Champions League. So I'll take it. Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'll definitely take what we can get. It's still super exciting that we're actually in the thing in the first place.
Right.
So for me, if I'm stepping myself outside of being a Rapids fan, as an MLS fan, this is bullshit. Like, look at it. You're looking at, we get a few teams in, and in the first round we get against each other because they're different countries, because we're the only league that I believe that has multiple countries playing in it. So how hard is it to write one little line that says, hey, can't play someone within your league in like the first round or whatever? Just treat it as if it's a different nation, like that, or that kind of stuff. Like, it's just terrible that we got put in with that, so one of us gets knocked out.
Yeah, there was essentially a 25% chance that we would pick Toronto, and we got that 25%.
And you're saying that it would just so happen to be chance then, or what?
I assume so, but it's still just frustrating.
It's frustrating that you've called him out otherwise, and you're not really going to town now.
No, he goes all soft on us.
Gave you an opportunity, man.
You gotta take your rage opportunities when you can. Like,
yeah. The problem is, it's at a time like this, it's one of those. Like, I don't really think that there was some rigged system with this, but still,
there was. Oh,
all right.
And I actually think that we might have a decent shot against them. That you're looking at a team that, like, obviously is talented and skilled, but like us the year before, like, when you're winning, you continue to win, you continue to gain that momentum, you continue to have that positivity, and after the off season, some of that can fade a little bit, and then it falls back onto, getting yourself back into it, because it's early on. It's preseason still when the game's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, for us, I think every other country, they're in like the middle of their season for this. So in some cases, yeah, it is probably better that we draw Toronto, who's at least like us in the middle of an off season or preseason, as opposed to everyone else who's coming in hot.
And I just don't think Toronto's going to take us seriously.
Agreed.
In fact, I don't think many people are actually going to take us seriously. We might have some deja vu moments in 2006.
Where's that?
Yeah, it would help a lot, but we'll see.
Well, you can take advantage of that if they think that they're not going to take you seriously. That's when you come in and be like, "We're wrecking."
And chances are hopefully, crossing fingers and dots and I's and T's and visa programs, we're going to have a handful of players that no one's ever have seen and won't know how to defend. So
interesting. So NYC Rapid in chat thinks that drawing Toronto gives us the best shot at moving on to the quarterfinals.
That's kind of almost the angle I was going to go. I wasn't going to say anything about our best shot at anything, but I do think, despite some people's disappointments, it might be a really shinier silver lining than we think. I think we can take them. Even with half of a roster, I still think we could do it. And that's not the fanboy, the supporter, or whatever. That's just, I don't know. I'm getting a feeling things are changing. So
it's going to be a very different team for the Rapids. You've seen how many people that they didn't pick up, and you've seen how many people that they're obviously going to be bringing in. I believe they still have, in theory, 6 more-ish before the season starts. Like, that's a huge turnover. Like, they're going to be going up against a team that they're not expecting. And they couldn't scout against.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm going at, was they have no idea who they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
They have some guesses, but they have no idea. I mean, no one even really knows the formation, let alone text. I mean, they could watch New Zealand games, I guess, and kind of try to get an idea, but we got some advantages with being completely unknown at this point. Could be a good thing.
That's true.
Good thing.
And speaking of new players,
yeah, should we get into the new signings?
absolutely. This would be a kind of a good time to move on. We really only had technically one new signing. Kip Colvey joins the Rapids. We picked him up on the waiver draft. Came from San Jose. Don't really know much about him other than he does have New Zealand ties. Anybody surprised? He's 23. He can play both left and right back, wing back. We know that that's the type of style that Coach likes. So this is a guy that could kind of maybe give Marley and Eric a bit of a push to make sure that they solidify their spots, or at least those are the players that we know are on the roster. He doesn't take an international slot because he was born in Hawaii. So even though he played and plays for the New Zealand national team, he's American. So yay for that. We don't have to worry about anything like that.
Granted, he's not on the team, but the rumor of Edgar Castillo also is that dual citizenship thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't take up technically if so that's a good thing because we really only do have a couple international slots left. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how we fill those and who goes up with. But not to take anything away from Kip Colvey signing. Many people think this is a depth thing. I really don't know who's going to be depth and who's not going to be at this point. I mean, we can look at some of the young people. We talked about Jack McBean and Caleb Calvert earlier. We'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead. We got some young players, and it's going to be different, I think, all around. And I don't know if there might be anybody on the roster that is going to be completely Charlotte bound all season long.
Define.
Oh,
No,
that's a given.
Loan that guy out to somebody else. Don't even send him to Charlotte. Don't torture them.
Maybe we could use Default strategically as a plant to another team to make sure they lose. So that way Charlotte or Switchbacks or whoever we want to win does.
Yeah. Could go that route. At first, I almost thought maybe Cookie will know how to deal with them in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Anyway, next,
do you guys have thoughts on Colvey? I mean, good, bad, indifferent?
I don't know a lot about him. In Porrick we trust, so
I think this is even more in coach.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think this is not a Porrick. This is a Hudson.
I'm sorry, but there's not a player that gets signed that Porrick doesn't know about or had done his research on.
And we'll
That
find out
man
later
holds the
more
keys
about
to
what
that
the scouting
kingdom,
program
and-
does. So, yeah. They definitely know a bit more about this kid than probably a handful of other teams do. And that's something I think that can help continue a positive thought about him, even if he's depth, even if he's just somebody who's going to challenge Marlon Miller, or even if he ends up spending some time in Charlotte. This is still going to be some type of player that we can actually look for in the future. And a lot of the times I think we forget as fans that just because we sign somebody means that they're going to make an impact that season. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's how that's going to go. And I think that that's how we should look at almost any signing coming in, even if they're a DP, because we still have to think in most cases it's a different league. And so there's going to be some transition time and some adaptation.
A very different team and a possibility of a different formation. Like, we really have nothing to go on as outside analysts to make even an attempt at an educated guess. We're throwing darts in the dark right now going, well, we know what position he normally plays. If we compare him to the team that was last year, in the formation that was last year, like, that's it. It's just, there's just not enough to go on for us to really make an educated guess on who will be starting and who's going to show up to camp ready. And like, there's
especially if we don't know who they are.
there's just so much, and we don't even have the full roster yet. You're still looking at 6 more players that are going to be coming in. Like, it's a lot of players. It's a third of the starting or the top 18. So.
And a lot of people are going to be expecting every one of those players to be like the starting 11. And it's not always going to be the case. Which, you know, players move around. In fact, we picked up Mike Grilla for about, 2 hours?
20 seconds, actually.
It was kind of more just a finagle move, so Columbus or Austin or whoever they are could pick them up. Good thing we have a really great communications man at the front office there to put people in Twitter in their place. Brian responded epically to a tweet making it sound like Colorado got themselves screwed by not keeping Grilla. They had no intent of keeping Grilla, picking him in general. They just kind of did a team of solid. And in fact, we got one back. So we got a super draft pick for 2019. And Colin, you kind of, I see this little note here. Yeah.
Just wanted to point out that I think that super draft might, be pretty useful later on, just because looking at the last several years of people, looking at people we've signed, Deshaun Brown, Marlon Hairston, Jared Watts, Axel, those are a lot of great players that are on our starting lineup right now.
You also point out Dylan Powers, Joseph Greenspan. People that may or may not have been paid out in the end.
Yes,
I'm looking at this.
Let's look at the
seriously.
positive side.
What?
Okay.
Oh, I ain't never heard that.
I'm just saying, like, we got, like Ryan said, we got something for nothing here.
We got more. I mean, looking at what you brought up here with Deshaun Brown, Dylan Powers, Marlon Harrison, Jared Watts, John Brenner, the list goes on. We all know who we've drafted over the last few. We've gotten something out of everyone, whether it's cash or whether it's really hard work and play on the field. Liam Callahan is probably the only one, and Sam Hamilton, it's hard to tell. But Castillo, we got some good moments out of. But everybody else, like, we either got a pick, an international slot, some I mean, Marley's still here. Watt's still here. Axel, obviously. Deshorn and Dill. Well, we got a lot of money out of Deshorn.
We did.
Maybe
We got a couple
of
good years out of Powers.
well, his first year, and I mean his second year, kind of, until he missed that PK in RSL. But other than that, like
he made me sad again.
Oh man, now we're just gonna have to stop the cast and go cry.
Figuring out again how to live.
yeah. Adding to the list of players that have happened over the last week, Jack McBean. I mentioned it earlier. Colin's got some breakdown here because this is a young striker that came to us from LA Galaxy. He's 23. So despite the fact that like most people would be like, Jack McBean, why do I know that name? If you're a Rapids fan, you know that name because he's scored some goals on us.
Yeah. In fact, the only 2 MLS goals he scored all of last year were on us. Both of them. One game.
That's why you remember the
He
name Jack
outscored
McBean.
Watts.
Does that count the own goal, though?
That is counting the own goal.
So, I mean, do we want to go right into kind of Colin's corner, Jack McBean, and talking about Caleb Calvert and kind of what maybe we can expect from these 2 young strikers? Because I think the point here is we kind of have an idea who Jack McBean is, and we kind of have an idea of who Caleb Calvert is. They're about the same age. They both kind of come out of Cali. They're both homegrown Cali guys.
Well, technically, McBean isn't a homegrown.
Oh, thank you for calling me out on that. Go to it then.
Sure. So just one quick thing here before we get into this. We traded Jack McBean and we sent away a conditional 4th round pick in the super draft. So what ended up happening here is we traded our 4th round pick and then we got the 2nd round pick from Columbus just through the just for getting Mike Grella in the re-entry draft.
Okay,
so this actually worked out really well for us.
So there was a whole lot of really swapping some cool stuff around, and in the end, out of the entire Mike Grella thing, what you're saying is we got Jack McBean?
We got Jack McBean in a 2nd round pick for a 4th round pick.
Overall?
Yeah.
All right, so that's something to be pretty proud of. That's some good finagling on the front office's part, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
What else we got?
So going into this, I think it's pretty clear to me that the closest analog that we have on our team right now to Jack McBean is Caleb Calvert. They've both been the last couple of years. They're both young strikers for one, but they've both been kind of hovering on this MLS USL loan, playing, sometime in each. And
they're up and down.
Yeah. They're actually really similar if you look at just some of the things with them. Like Jack was the youngest signing for LA Galaxy. He signed when he was 16. And that is a huge deal. And he was also the youngest player.
Right?
I don't know why I set myself up for that so much. Should really have learned by now. Yeah. Also, when we say he turned 23, we mean he literally just turned 23. His birthday was yesterday.
Okay, happy birthday, Mr. Jack McBean. Sir.
Anyways.
Okay.
So, Jack was the youngest signing at 16. He was the youngest to start for LA. He was the youngest to score for LA. That happened in the same game. He has seen a little bit of time with the U17 and U18 U.S. national teams, playing 10 games with the U17, 2 games with the U18.
Was he the youngest to score a brace against a team?
Didn't see anything on that.
Okay.
So these are all for LA specifically, right? Not
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's remember LA is a retirement league.
Team.
I mean, if he's retiring at 23, he's doing all right then.
Well, no, that's why he's off the team in here, because
Yeah.
we're the young team.
We're the young team.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You compare that to Calvert. He was signed with the team Chivas, which folded in 2014. So we got him in the dispersal draft, and he's basically been playing in Charlotte for most of the time. So he's been kind of bouncing around for us. We actually had to pull him up a lot in the last season or two, just because of injury and needing to fill out the 18.
yeah, we lost Doyle.
That's especially true. So looking at this here, in their professional career, I'm not counting like college or anything like that. Caleb's seen 66 games and scored 10 goals. Jack's played 104 games and scored 30 goals. So looking at points per game, Calvert's at 0.15, Jack's at 0.29. That's really the big difference here.
So that's basically 1 goal every 2 games to 1 goal every 5 games?
About 1 goal every 3 games. Yeah.
All right. Well,
But yeah, so we're looking, on just a points per game. McBean's twice as good as Caleb. Whether that will actually translate or not.
so would you be willing? So would you be willing to guarantee that we would see more of Jack McBean than Caleb
Don't
Calvert?
do it.
I'm not going to do this whole guarantee thing because we know how well that goes for this podcast.
That's why Caleb won't be. Like McBean could show up like DeFont, and because Brendan said he guaranteed we'd see him, he's gonna go back out to Charlotte.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but honestly, though, I do think that between the two, we're much more likely to see McBean over Calvert.
I think that seems to be the general consensus or thought.
Unless you're Juan.
Well, a simulator can only do so much, but
Juan also thought we were going to see Burner last year. So let's not.
Can't really
okay.
trust the Juan sometimes.
I often find you the source of many and witty things that you say.
Do we have any questions, thoughts, or anything else from the Twitter sphere, since we're talking about Juan and some of our listeners and fans while we're reaching out and kind of moving on topics?
Well, I've kind of got a question for you guys here.
Yeah, man.
Do you see McBean as the striker replacement, or do you think we're still going to go get someone with maybe a little more experience, or at least put succinctly a bigger paycheck?
I sure hope we're gonna go sign another striker.
Brendan, what about you?
I'm pondering that because, to be honest with you, Baji could be that striker. Eigner could be that second. I mean, I don't know. We've talked about wanting an attack midfielder or a number 10 or there's just, without even really kind of knowing fully, we can make up ideas about what formation, but we have an idea we're going to have 2 strikers. So who's your one? And I don't think Jack's your one, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of him thinking at the moment. I don't know. We still even have a draft.
Well, it just seems like it's the one position that we haven't gone out and really signed for what is really a striker. Like Eigner can do it, Gashi can do it, but they're more of that
shadow striker.
Yeah, they're not.
They're more
not that
attacking
striker,
mids.
That head guy like Doyle or Connor Casey style of player that just sits up there and can put balls in the net and can distribute and maybe is a little bit bulkier, which is probably what Baji's issue is sometimes, is that he's a little bit lightweight, so he has to rely on speed and over the top a little bit more than
right.
say
So
Connor
then
Casey.
you want yours, and that the idea is to have your second striker a bit more like a Connor or a Doyle, who's going to be a bit physical, who's going to work off the ball. I loved me a Connor Casey, and I think that you do kind of want to target man. My mom used to complain and bitch about how he wouldn't run and track back, and I'm like, Mom, that's not his job. Nobody else has scored more goals for this team than Connor Casey. So bitch all you want about running back and not running back.
That's like saying, well, sorry, Axel's not scoring goals.
Yeah, well, you know, and
He's not
Joe
running all the
Greenspan
field.
used to play forward, so I think it's really kind of just you want to utilize the right players for what they can offer, and we just don't know what type of players we have. And I'd like to think that everyone that we're bringing in is going to make an impact one way or another. That's kind of the cliche, cheap way of saying it, but I don't know if we're going to go spend big money on a striker. To answer your question.
So where are we going to go spend some big money?
I don't think it's going to be big money.
Bench riders.
I think we're going to spend a good amount of money on very good undiscovered fair players. I don't think we're going to get anyone who's going to want to wear the number 10 on the back. And I don't think we're going to get anyone who's going to want to wear the number 9 on their back. Maybe not 9. That's a different, because you have to have a different ego and a mentality for a 10. But I just don't know if, like, I have a feeling that, I mean, we're going to get a lot of we're going to get some Agners and we're some Johan. People we just don't know necessarily what their value versus their salary is. But the culmination of that is going to be better than Toronto's 3 DPs. Just my thought. I don't know.
I'm surprised you say that, because to me, I think the one position I think we do need to go spend some money on is a striker.
It's hard to find a proven striker that's going to come into this himself right away. And I don't know if this team is shopping for a striker in the league. If that's what I don't know. I mean, the only damn rumor we've heard is freaking Edgar Castillo, and even that's not come true. So I don't think that, I don't know, just looking at the way that they conduct their history, and it's not a bad thing because I'm talking about recently. I'm talking about the good signings, the way we've picked up players. And I just had a good conversation with scouts last week on Untapped, and just listening to it, the way that they go about their business, it's going to make a lot of people open their eyes and be happy. It just, in the meantime, they're going to be skeptical. I don't know. I don't, nothing was ever like set in stone. So they could totally make me look like an ass, which I'd like them to do.
Which
But
is basically what they do. They actually listen to this and they're like, what the hell did they say?
right.
Let's go change that.
Anyway, moving forward, we do have kind of some stuff that we want to chat about as we wrap up the year, this season, and all that kind of stuff. We are going to do the Voices Awards. We're going to kind of do it as a cast and get some stuff together, and we're going to make a nice big little presentation. Not a podcast or anything like that. It's going to be an actual kind of awards. So we have categories to kind of put out there, and we'll have some Twitter polls and stuff to go out, and we'll see how everyone else feels and thinks about the awards and what types of nominees that we have. Starting with Flopper of the Year, because you just can't really start off an award ceremony without laughing at something.
That's a tough one.
There's
some good flops this year.
right, and you weren't even like doing the flopper of the match. And we definitely were finding up some floppers. Giovinco definitely is on the list. Face Palm of the Year. Kind of that moment where you're just like, oh, couldn't get any worse now, could it? Yeah, right. The
Step your game up.
or Most Improved Player of the Year. That one, I think that one's going to take some time because this was one of those seasons. I don't know if we were looking at who was shining versus who was falling apart, which would lead us to the Most Deteriorated Player of the Year. the most quickest reversal of fortune. Now, this one could almost go to your facepalm moment, but it's kind of like the never say you got the game won when you're 2 goals up, because so that moment. So goal of the year, the Rapids did their
self.
Good question. We might have to debate on that. We don't have the nominees for it, so we'll have to debate whether self-goal counts, because that actually could be kind of something funny.
There's been a couple.
Newcomer, new player of the year. Rookie of the year. This league doesn't really necessarily deal with these so much as they do with players. Or do we keep it just Rapids related? That's something that we'll have to kind of thought.
I mean, personally, I'd keep it Rapids related.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
because if we're going,
Okay.
because if we're going for actual rookie, we have Courtney Ford and anyone else.
That's true. Because if we went straight rookie of the year, Rapids related, there's no way.
I guess Sam Hamilton, but
no,
you almost forget that he was actually there.
Oh, sorry, Sam. There's Courtney Ford, almost kind of, new player of the year. The Rapids didn't have a whole lot of new players this year. That award might be a bigger award this coming season. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's just it. Eigner or Ford?
We'll talk later.
Debate.
Yeah, we'll debate it later.
Yeah. Exactly. Drunken slur. I'm going to go a little off on this because this year hasn't been the greatest for this cast. And if anything, there's been nothing but dumb drunken slurs every single time. It'd almost be too much to go through it. And I apologize. And this will be a one-time only. Next year, we should not even be able to offer that to anyone in this cast. But we're going to have a drunken award slur.
I think you can get rid of your stutter.
That's different.
More of a
Yeah. We'll just have a blooper reel of all of my of all the times that I didn't get my tongue twisters out. That's different than a drunken slur. Although we could just spin the drunken slur to just that drunken moment where no one understood what anybody was saying. Favorite moment of the year. This is very vast because every single person on this cast could probably nominate a different moment or time throughout the season that was their favorite moment, whether it was a road trip to RSL, 1 or 2 tailgates, a moment during a game or something. It's going to be, this one might actually be one of the hardest ones for us to come to a conclusion on. Manly Man of the Year. This is really kind of Brian's award. We all will have our second opinion on that. Basically the non-MVP, but the hardworking Chris Henderson award of the year. So that one will be kind of interesting as well. Defensive player of the year. That one usually kind of like, do you give it to goalie? Do you to a defender? At what point is a midfielder considered? All those things we will be considering and ask you guys, the fans, as well. Then biggest bust last year's was Marco Papa. Yeah, and the reason I mention this is because I almost want to change the name of the award to the Marco Papa Award.
No. We all know the biggest mistake of the Rapids in recent history was Juan Ramirez.
Yeah, well, that might be a nominee.
And I would argue that he is not worthy of the biggest bust of 2017 award.
No, because we finally got rid of him. But he's talking overall, naming the award after him, and there's obviously a better choice.
Papa's more well known.
Yeah, that's the thing is not many people would be like the Juan Ramirez. Why is it that? Like, is that the award for players signed who never really got to play? Which could be the biggest bust award, but then yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to have a second conversation as to how to rename the biggest bust award. Anyway, and finally,
Actually, not finally.
no,
There's one other one.
Missed one.
I
Yep.
did the defining moment of the year.
Yes.
I did. You added that in, didn't you?
No. I
Shit.
just ran right over it.
Oh, I ain't never heard that.
Okay, defining moment of the year.
What
Was there
kind
a
of
defining moment of the like? Was there like because if there was a defining moment this year, probably sit there and say any one of the games that reffed.
I think there's a couple good ones for that.
All right.
I don't want to tease it too much, but I've got my opinion on what kind of just summarize the entire season.
Which would be no, sorry, man.
Default
I'm
as a
putting you on
starter?
the spot.
I'm actually going to go with the sucker punch at the start of the year, the Cronin Birch trade.
We'll have to argue it out later.
Yep, mold talk.
Okay, I see your defining moment. It went sour. Okay. Alrighty then. So we're gonna give you those awards come award season.
Now you're forgetting the last one.
Nope. I'm not. We're just not gonna do most valuable player at all. Screw that.
We're just not gonna.
Everybody else did it. No. Rapids did goal of the year, most valuable player. Why do we gotta do it? No, I'm kidding. We're gonna do most valuable player too. I'm just gonna close off the show and then be like, come back and be like, oh yeah, most valuable player is, keep you waiting just a little bit longer. I had to make it look like it wasn't an accident. It's kind of what I do, right? Not really. My whole intent for this was to actually kind of make it like an award show. So we're going to drop it around award season, make it kind of seem for serial. I don't have that drop. Before we get to the outro and all of that kind of stuff, is there anything else that I didn't touch on, forgot, and you guys would like
a couple questions from chat.
Sweet.
Actually, semi-interactive.
Nice. I like it.
McCleve would like to know how much of the discretionary TAM are we going to use this year?
How much am I going to use of you? All right. She's going to be around a lot, dude.
No, TAM, as in TAM.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it.
As in Gam Tam?
Yeah. Confusing people.
Yeah. That was the geeky guy's answer question thingy. So, Colin, take it away. What do you think?
I mean, if we're going to be smart, we'd use all of it because it's basically free money.
Well, it's free money for us, not free money for said people that might be named Cronky.
That is also true.
That's a better time to use it.
My opinion is, I think maybe what McCleve is getting at was kind of what I was saying, is that I think a lot of the players we're going to bring in could be those quality DP players, but we used our TAM and GAM, and we got smart people doing smart things. And I think that, yeah, that's what I think. We'll get it used. Hopefully on the right people. What else?
McCleve also wants to know how cold it is in Toronto in March.
TAM.
Well, that's probably pretty close to Buffalo. Pretty fucking cold. Freaking.
No, that's all right. I had enough drops with all of that, and I didn't have the twat saying, or the drop that's saying, "Come in, my twat is cold."
Oh, that's worse.
I didn't expect that cold. Yeah. All right.
Well,
anyway,
I just pulled up the weather for Toronto for the next week. The high is 0.
What's the
And it's not going to
outside?
change.
There isn't one.
No.
It's our neighbor.
Yeah, it's going to be like that until June, April maybe. It'll be cold, but our boys can handle it. Well, I don't know. Depends on where they are this offseason, because we know some of them are here, and it's pretty warm here.
It depends on where they were born and raised.
Right. Actually, I think all of those areas.
Yeah.
Shit. All right. Well, we'll be all right.
We have the oxygen advantage.
Thank you guys for sticking with us. Or is there more?
No, that was it. Cleve shot
Okay.
a couple questions out. Wanted to get them answered because, if you show up in
Alright.
chat, you get your questions answered.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So-
McCleve.
Love you, Cleve.
Well, you could even respond to our emails and our Twitters and all sorts of stuff. But thank you for joining us live because that's what's going to, we're stepping our game up. I had a different thing up, so I'm not going to play the drop anyway.
Speaking of
Not
the
gonna-
emails and the social medias, where can we find ourselves? Can we find ourselves?
We can't.
Is that like a philosophical question we need to ask too?
No.
We're looking out into the
Um,
universe, like Pablo said. That's where
Yeah.
we're going.
I'm the Dr. Voice _C30. Matt Hand Voice. Austin's doing the live stuff on that Twitter, and he's not going to drop it. Okay. Thank you guys for sticking with.
Hey, we don't want to forget about Brian. You can catch Brian at MLS from 5280. Yeah, he wasn't here today. Colin,
You can find me on Twitter at the Ace Arbiter.
you can find me, obviously, at drunkenmonk _C38. And as Brendan said, you can find us live on Tuesdays, give or take 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, on Twitter.
Thank you for making it with all year. See you next year.